on the line now, we do have Pam Parsons, who is the Liberal Justice critic, and joins me now. Good afternoon, Pam.
Good afternoon, Zach, and I'm happy to be here on your show today.
Thank you.
About this very important issue. Yes.
Yeah, well, you've heard a little bit of what Helen Conway-Oppenheimer had to say. How do you respond?
Well, first of all, a comment that she made about disingenuous, I disagree with that. But for example, she made
MHA Parsons, if you could, we're just kind of a little bit of issues with your line there. Maybe we can sort that up a little bit there. I understand that you're in quite a tough spot as it stands.
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'll try to stay still right here. Yes, I am in an area of the province with poor reception. But yes, for example, a Liberal government announced 18 Crown attorneys over 3 years. This was back in 2024. So this obviously they are continuing with that plan, which is a good thing. But that said, the minister made reference to I guess the time it took to get the justice system to where it is. But what's important to realize, they're in government now 9 months. And they are the ones in charge now. That said, the minister was in opposition, was an actual justice opposition critic for quite some years. So these issues are not new. But what's important is that there's real work on the ground with our stakeholders supporting our law enforcement, our officers on the front line, both the RNC and the RCMP. It's great to see that they're committed, to hear them say that they're committed, but it's time to see some action, and it's time to see just exactly how these initiatives are going to unfold and what we can expect to see with recruitment and attention. Unfortunately, a big thing that we're looking for, and it certainly was not new information, this was brought forth by the working group about the lack of support for sheriff's officers. Unfortunately, in the PC budget that was actually late coming down in May, we didn't see any support for sheriff's officers, and they are critical, they are vital. And you could appreciate, Zach, that just this past week and last week, your media colleagues certainly could not come into the courtroom due to lack of staffing, a lack of sheriff's officers, of course, to, what is required for the capacity of people in those rooms. So when the media is shut out of the courtroom, when the members of the public are shut out of the courtroom, well, that certainly puts into question, the public confidence. That's ultimately going to cause a reduction in public confidence. Mm-hmm. and which is ultimately a lack of justice. So, we've been talking about these issues for quite some time. The minister's been talking about this for years while she was in opposition. She's now in a position, to action change. And I'm calling on the premier to support the minister and to support the minister with the supports that they need. As we know, residents are extremely concerned. In my district alone, I've been on the phone hearing from residents who are very concerned for their safety in the community, in particular in Harbour Grace recently. But again, it's not just in one community. We're seeing this across Newfoundland and Labrador. Not a new issue, but again, calling on the minister. The minister is now in the position, as well as her premier and their cabinet, to make change. They promised this government campaign on making change, making safe communities for all of us. But unfortunately, we're not seeing that to date.
Do you think there's proper access to justice in Newfoundland and Labrador right now? The minister seems to think that there is.
Well, the facts are the facts. We just saw back in November the abrupt closures of courts across Newfoundland and Labrador, and which are still not open in different courtrooms across our province. That's concerning. That's providing a lack of access for people to have these proceedings, ultimately justice. So those are facts. The courts were abruptly closed without a proper explanation. And now, of course, what we're seeing recently in many violent crimes and happening in Mount Pearl, happening in Paradise, as I mentioned, my district of Harbour Grace, Portagrave, we're seeing activity in Harbour Grace. I know I'm hearing from residents of an MHA, but I'm also hearing and seeing it firsthand in the media. So again, what's important is that this government are on record making promises that they are going to fix this. They were there in opposition. They played the critical roles at that time. They knew the issues at hand. They are now in the position, the minister in particular is in the position to action change. And I'm calling on her to make that happen. That said, I offer my support to work with her. All MHAs, we're all here for the people of Newfoundland, Labrador, of all 40 districts. And it's very important, that we work together, and we're certainly willing to do that. But we do know that this is urgent. And, public safety is at question here. And I mean, I'm hearing that from my constituents. So certainly, change is needed. So let's see it, and let's see those details, these tangible examples about how these changes are going to come about.
You mentioned about those court closures in November. That's something that they doubled down again today, saying that this was your government's fault at the time. Do you believe that that is the case? And do you think that it's fair to criticize your previous government for that?
I think it's unfortunate for any minister in a position to point fingers and play the blame game at this point. Whether we do know the timing of it happened, the timing happened in November when the minister was in place. That said, again, it shouldn't be about blame or pointing fingers. This is about the people. This should not be political. Justice and public safety, it should not be political. Again, I offer my support to work with the minister. I know my colleagues in opposition, we are all committed to working together for the absolute best results for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians from coast to coast, throughout every district here. So again, they're in the position now, they're government now, they're no longer opposition. It's time to start action. Rather than criticize and point fingers, you're in the position of authority now. So it's your turn to lead the province. So again, I'm calling on the minister to focus on it and to give us the tangible examples to see what exact initiatives they are going to be using to create the change that is needed.
Do you think that the justice system was in a proper state when you left it?
Well, that's it. There's always room for improvement, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's justice and public safety. I've never served as a justice minister, as you know, but that said, in my role as Women and Gender Equality Minister, of course, I always work closely with the Justice Minister and the ministers, and of course, from the teams, because we did collaborate on a lot of files, and we did bring in, do a lot of good work, in particular with violence prevention awareness in work with Indigenous as well. So again, there's always room for improvement. No matter how good of a job that a government is able to do, the accomplishments that they're able. There's always room for improvement, and that's certainly where we are right now. So again, it's not about blame, it's not about who did what, but it's ultimately we need to see action. And again, I offer my support to work with the minister. Maybe perhaps an all-party committee should be created. That's something that was done in the past for mental health and addictions. We saw wonderful results come out of that. So that's something perhaps that the minister can consider.
Pam, we are well over break, but I do want to get this one final thought from you. What have you been hearing from your constituents in Harbour Grace, Portagrave?
Well, I've been taking calls all week to my constituency office, and people are wondering, their safety. They can see they're witnessing these incidents unfold in their communities firsthand. One lady was very concerned for her adult daughter, who of course has summer employment, and she's concerned about her daughter walking safely back to and from work in the community. Everybody deserves to live and to grow and to play and to work in a safe environment. And so I'm hearing a lot of concern, and not just in Harbour Grace. I actually took a call from a lady in Corner Brook, as I am the Justice critic, the Shadow Minister for Justice and Public Safety, about concerns that they're having out there and that they're seeing within the justice system, and the lack of support that are there. So I'm fielding calls not just from my district, but from people around the province. Again, so we have to do better. I mean, every government, like I say, there's always room for improvement.
Pam Parsons, we are well over break. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you, Zach, and take good care.
All right, that is Liberal Justice critic Pam Parsons. We are going to take a break. More of the Tim Power Show right after this on the VOCM Big Line FM radio network.